Welcome to You Matter in Business. Your hosts today are Ariel, me, and Miriam.
Your heart, your brand story, and your success because you matter in your business. Welcome back to You Matter in Business. Hi, Ariel. How are you doing today?
I am good. I am good. How about you?
I'm really good, thank you. So, just
How
to
do you think
remind,
our audience is? Do you think they're good today?
it depends whether they're in the UK or in Australia or in Florida. It depends on what the weather's looking like.
Or maybe
It's-
Paris? You never know.
You never know. Just a reminder, You Matter in Business is hosted by Ariel Faith, and Ariel is a personal brand photographer and story brand guide. And I'm Miriam Richardson, and I'm from Enrich Life Coaching. Today, we're going to be talking about another one of our social media platforms. So last week, we talked about Facebook. And this week, we're switching gears. We're pivoting slightly. We're going to talk about Instagram because whilst they are owned by the same company, Meta, they are very different beasts and need to be interacted with or differently, I think. So let's go in, let's delve a little bit deeper. Let's have a look at some of those differences. And so today, let's have a quick look to start with, because Instagram is very visual. So it's a lot more photographs and a lot more graphics. So as a photographer, you'll probably know the answer to this much better than I would. Do you know what the baseline quality expectations for photographs and videos is on Instagram? And what advice would you give to people out there, our lovely women business owners who are setting out on their Instagram journey? What advice would you give them about the visuals and the photographs and the graphics that they use on Instagram? There you go. There's a good meaty one for you to start with.
That is a good meaty one because it varies quite drastically. It's kind of hard to put in one bubble because it depends on what you're doing and what your purpose for Instagram is. So we are talking to business women and business owners. So our purpose is to use Instagram for business, right? To get more exposure and more potential clients and educate. And it's very similar to Facebook. That's really the goal, is to teach people. You should still have a balance. It's a little different in Instagram, the balance. But you should include testimonials. You should include very little offering. You should include the human factor, the personality, the who are you? Like, what do you love? And so a little bit of you in there. So there's an authentic factor.
Mm-hmm. A little bit of vulnerability as well, maybe.
Maybe, but maybe not. Depends on who your clients are. You can go on social media and be vulnerable with everything bad that ever happened in your life. But if you're trying to attract a client to work with you, would you want to work with somebody who is clinically depressed?
No. But
on the other side of being clinically depressed, and now they're feeling much better, maybe they can share that they went through a period of depression. That's different than I'm in the pain and I'm sharing my tears.
Yeah, no. I think you need to show that you can guide them through it because you've been there and you've got some kind of empathy towards what they're going through. But as we've talked about this before, about being authentic but not losing that professionalism. Yeah, sitting there crying isn't potentially as a life coach. I'm not going to sit there and cry my eyes out and say how bad my life is and how I'm never achieving anything and that kind of thing. No one's ever going to come to me. But to say, I've suffered from burnout in the past. I've suffered from fatigue. I've been overwhelmed in the past. That I struggled, like many women, with balancing and juggling life. I think that offers some kind of authenticity and so a little bit of vulnerability.
It's balanced.
Yeah.
And you're not in the pain.
No. Yeah. But in terms of Instagram, so I've fallen flat on this one. In terms of actual, just like the kind of bones of it, how you set out Instagram is different from how you set out Facebook. So Facebook likes it one size, and
Right.
Instagram likes it another size.
Right.
So otherwise, and it will cut things off.
Right.
And another thing that I've fallen foul of as well, and you can talk the bones of this one if you like, but the other thing I've found is that if I do a screenshot of something, when it comes onto Instagram, it looks all pixelated and not very good. So what's your advice on how to make sure that you look crisp and clean and enticing in terms of content creation?
Couple of things to know about the images themselves, because you talked about what is a baseline quality. Your baseline quality should be, they say 72 pixels, dots per inch, which is a DPI thing. When you're saving a file, you can save it into different dots per inch. So the more dots in an inch, the more denser the picture is, the more detailed it is, right? So
Okay.
the more crisp a picture is, it's going to have more. If you're going to print something, you're at 300 DPI, just to give you an example.
Okay.
Minimum for print quality, because it needs that many points to make the image sharp with a print head, right?
Okay.
Working with the screen, your monitor tells you only sees generally 72 DPI. Even if I have a 300 DPI image on a screen, it's still not going to be as good as that print would.
That's good to know.
Because it's different resolution, right? That's where that DPI comes in. But I generally like 120. That's where I stick. The files are a tad bit bigger, which slows things down, but not drastically. I think and visually for me, those are sharper. They're cleaner. So I can see visually the difference in a 120 versus a 72, but 120 is not so much that it's going to be, sometimes there's size limitations on some of these, that file's too big. Well, when I'm making a photograph, it starts off being a 45 meg file in the files I work with. So you can't use those high resolution print quality images on the internet. Your internet will be like yelling at you. You don't want them on your website for the same reason, but you also don't want to go the other extreme where things get pixelated. Because when it's pixelated, your dots per inch has dropped. That's why it gets boxy.
Okay, so we need to head for the kind of the 120, but definitely never less than 72. Okay, and what about? So talk to me about photographs of, like, say for instance, of me, selfies or pictures that other people have taken, and what about, and you can do this two at the same time, text over photographs. What's your feeling on that?
One thing you have to remember about text over photographs is always pay attention to your contrast. So many people put a white piece of text on, like if you put a white piece of text across me right now, nobody can see this because this is a podcast, but I'm wearing a brown shirt or brownish sweater, a white shirt, and the background is white, approximately, right? I put white text. It'll look great on the brown, but it will get lost in the white areas.
Okay.
So that's what you want to look for. You want to look for images that have the contrast, or you place the text in an area that's one, it's either dark or it's light. And if it's light, you want dark text. If it's dark, you don't want it to blend over onto something where the text gets lost. That's the biggest mistake I see when it comes to text over images. And, nowadays you can do a whole bunch of stuff. You can actually add a color to the background of the text. Sometimes that, looks tacky depending on how well the app is. You can do that in Canva and some other things. So there's ways to work with that. If you have an image that has all those contrasting colors and you still want that image, you just put something behind it to make it pop out, whether it's a box or something like that.
And you said something to me really interesting the other day. I don't think this was on a podcast. I think this was just when we were chatting about fonts.
Oh, yeah. And I grew up with cursive. Cursive is normal to me, right? It was an art. We used to do it for the fun of it, different styles and calligraphy and all that stuff. And the younger generation in our world is not taught cursive. My daughter does not know how to read cursive. I write something and she's like, I can't read that. And I'm like, why? I'm thinking it's messy, but it's because it's in cursive. So I like pretty fonts. Always have, always will. I love pretty fonts. Pretty fonts generally are a script, they're a cursive. But if I'm trying to reach an audience, they may not be able to even read what I put up there.
Yeah, you see, that's fact. You see, in the UK, I've never heard of the phrase cursive before, or the word cursive before. We don't use that as a terminology in the UK.
Is it script?
It's handwriting. It's just
okay.
Or joined up writing. So you learn to like join your letters together. So I'm translating for the UK audience whilst I'm doing.
That's fine.
To me, I was taking me ages to work out what cursive was. Perhaps I'm just stupid, but we would
no, I will not let that be the case because it's not.
For us, it's joined up writing. So you start off when you're in primary school learning how to write all the individual letters and forming them correctly, so that eventually you can join them together. The A smoothly moves into the B, which moves into the C, which, all those kind of things.
Right.
So you call it cursive. We would just call it joined up.
And in fonts, it's called scripts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and you're right. I mean, I'm the same. I love a script. I love those like flowing handwritey type things. I use them all the time. I really like them.
As a logo, they can be used.
Yeah.
Like a monogram, they can be used. So there is a place for them. But if you have a clear message, something that you're trying to say on your website, and it's in a scripted, because I had lots of script on my website. I just recently I'm in the process of redoing the whole site. And that's one of the reasons why. And I had never even thought about the fact that there is a huge population that cannot read cursive. So you want, even though it is boring, I'm going to use that word because it is, you can get some, there's 3 kinds of fonts. There's the scripts. Well, there might be more than that, but I'm just going to generalize. There's the scripty fonts, which is the cursive-y, pretty, handwriting looking fonts. And then there's the sans serif. So it does not have serif. So that's your Arials, all your clean letters with no kicks on the end to emphasize them, because that's what a serif is. So like your Times Roman has a little kick on it, right? That's a serif. So there's serifed fonts, and then there's sans serif fonts that don't have any little extra curves or anything on the ends of the letters.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's good. Good to know.
So you want a combination of those two, like use one sans serif, that's your fancy font. But make sure it's not too tight so that it becomes hard to read, because some fonts are very tight and some fonts are very wide, just in terms of how the letters connect. Yeah. So knowing all, you have to kind of really, if you don't know how to do it, then you hire somebody to help you with it, because you really want a font that's readable.
Yeah.
And then the challenge is when you go to Canva, they have some fonts, but not all of them. Then you go to your web designer, they have some fonts, but not all of them. Yeah. Then you go to maybe your CRM system, and that has different fonts. So you have to kind of find one that literally will work across all those platforms. Mm-hmm. And I was recently told, and I think this is a good idea, even though I hate it because I don't like their fonts. Google fonts are the best ones.
Yeah.
Because if I don't have that font in my system, it will show up as it'll change the text. So on your web page, it might look distorted to me, or it might be doing something funny text-wise that it's not doing to me because I have that font. So if you use a Google font, one of the ones that come from that Google system, they tend to be the most universal across the around the world. And they are very boring, not all that exciting fonts. They really are. But if my purpose is to communicate and be heard, I have to use letters that are easily understood, whether I think they are aesthetically creative or not.
No, you're absolutely right. But that's really good information, isn't it, to recognize. And some people with impaired vision as well find it really difficult to read certain colors on certain backgrounds.
Yeah.
So it's not just when you've got photographs behind them or graphics behind them, but also, or images, but it also certain
Color.
colors on certain colors. Some people find, and colorblind people, they find that really difficult, and in fact are blind to it. So
Right.
making sure that you've got, sufficient contrast between different backgrounds and different your text is really important. Okay, good. So
Oh, and I
any
wanted to talk about videos too, real
oh,
quick.
good. Yeah.
Because Instagram, Instagram was a different beast 10 years ago, five. I don't even know when it shifted, but it's definitely been at least 5 years, probably more like 10. But it used to be a very different beast. It was a lot more fun back then. It was very much image based. It was more like a place where you shared. That's what it was for. It was designed to share. Like if you wanted to share your trip with your family, you just put them up there and then everybody could see them. So it's just a way of sharing your world with the people you wanted in your world. And you very much could control whether other people could see it or not by having a private or a public profile. Well, when you're using it for business, you definitely don't want a private profile. And you shouldn't be putting, this is my opinion. You can argue with me, or if you can disagree with me on this or not, but because I know people have different sides of this. But I do not have, my personal page is still my personal page and it's still private. I have and that is a community of people. If I don't know you, you're not in this world. I mean, I don't invite people in that I have not met. So that's that world. Now, business is different. I have to invite people I don't know into my business world. So in your business world, you have to be open, right? If you don't have a business account, there's tools you're missing that you need to know whether you're doing a good job or not, or reaching anyone or not. The analytics that they talk about that's behind the scenes. If you're not using a business account or digital creator account on Instagram, you won't have access to those tools. So that's another thing. And then Instagram tried to compete with TikTok. So that was their shift. When they shifted that way, I think Instagram turned into a joke because now it's just filled with stupid videos. And I did an experiment, and this is true. You can go back and look if you want. I forget which account I did it on, but I did an account. I put up a really stupid video, very poorly done, of a cat. And it was and I made a funny voice like the cat was talking. So I just did this really stupid video. And I did it on purpose to be stupid. That thing got more views than anything I've ever put up. So it was kind of like, okay, so I'm catering to an audience here that really only wants to be entertained and only wants stupid, funny things. That's what TikTok started with. It was, all this silly stuff, dancing to reels and all that kind of, sing with me and all that kind of stuff. And Instagram has really placed itself as a competitor to that. Well, that's where I think it's become, for me, it's failed. Because now I have one account has over 2,500 people following it, and I may reach 100 people with a post.
Yeah.
You have 2,000 people who have chosen to follow you, and you can only reach 100 of those with a post. There's something wrong with that algorithm, in my opinion. Just take a moment for a slight interruption. We wanted to share some exciting news.
Exceptional women professionals often struggle to communicate their expertise. Rediscover, refine, rebrand women's retreats provide a transformative, intimate experience that help clarify your unique identity, so you are self-confident and courageous, stand out in your industry, and enjoy effective marketing.
Join us on one of these retreats. Go to arielfaith.com and choose your date that fits your schedule. Reserve your exclusive spot with a simple deposit, and then enjoy tailored planning tips and details from us to get ready for this inspiring experience. In the meantime, if you can like, share, and comment on this podcast, we'd appreciate the love. Thank you. The difference, and I don't know if this is true on Facebook, but on Instagram, the story only shows to people who follow you.
Yes.
So the stories that you're putting up are the people who are in your loop, and they see those more than they see your posts. And then anything time sensitive, which drives me absolutely crazy. You don't know how many times I see a post 3 days after the event occurred.
Yeah, I know. And that's so frustrating. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Because it's gone. You're like, it would have been nice to know that 4 days ago. So if you're using that for those kind of events, it's really not doing the job unless you're paying for the ads. So that's really what they've done is they've made it, if you want reach, you have to pay for it. It used to be different. It was much more of a fun place to look at cool things and see neat places you wanted to go visit. It had a whole different beginning than where it is now. Okay.
So I don't know much about Instagram. I do go on Instagram. I am on there. I do post on there, but it's not a world that I enjoy.
Kind of like Facebook for me.
Yeah.
I get it.
So I steer clear, but I am aware. So I think on Instagram that there are 3 different things that you can use. There are reels, stories, and posts. So my understanding is that reels are about 15 to 30 seconds. They tend to be focused on current trends and educational content, and people tend to do a lot of them. So they're like 3 or 4 times a week.
Or a day for some people. And it's a lot of fluff.
Okay.
So if you're a person who likes content, it's not the place to be. It used to be, but it's not anymore. It's a lot of, they talk about B-roll and yes, it has a very powerful effect, but I'm sorry, a video of me drinking some coffee is really boring.
Yeah.
I might have put something interesting on it, but I'd rather see something even, because it's all about movement. If there's something in the movement, it tends to catch your eye. So it's really just about the fact that you moved in the video more than what you did in the video. But I think it's been so overused that it's more like, really? And unboxing videos? Come on, I don't want to see you unbox a video. I want to see you use the stupid thing. There's so many of these things that just make no sense. If you think about it from any logical standpoint, you're like, no, I'm not going to do an unboxing video. That is the dumbest thing on the planet. Nor will I watch one. Sorry. No. Anyway, I'm getting opinionated. I apologize. But we've really gone down like this tunnel of stupidity. You know what I mean? Like how much
everything down.
And the crazy part with Instagram, and this has happened in the last couple of years, this shift, but when you're on your feed, you're not even following the people you follow. It's all these other people.
Right, it's your algorithm. Right, so talk to me a minute about, let's talk about the demographic. So it's different from Facebook and it's different from LinkedIn. And you've just said that it tends to be, kind of maybe it's a competitor to TikTok. So what do you think the demographic, if I'm a business owner and I'm deciding which one of these platforms I sit on and it has to match the products that I'm out there providing, what's the demographic that is on Instagram right now?
The demographic on Instagram is going to be younger than Facebook. So
Facebook was 35 to 65. So are we talking 18 to 35 or is there a crossover, do you think?
There's a crossover because a lot of people who, like the people my mother's generation who, when they were adults, they learned about Facebook and it was really cool. They're still there and they're never going to go to the other platforms because they don't understand them. They're just kind of like, what in the world? So they still live on Facebook. So that's why it's an older crowd on Facebook. But then Instagram came in kind of when, I don't even know what year, I should probably know that, but when people were doing a lot more visual things on the internet because images were sharing, it was after JPEGs came out. For years, you couldn't even make a file that small. So you couldn't really share them unless you had a bigger drive. So when that compression of images came out with the JPEG format and we could actually start sharing things visually, that's when Instagram began to take its hold because now you could share massive amounts of photographic images and through the internet. And that was probably 90s, I'm going to say. I could be wrong, but I didn't really get into Instagram until probably the early 2000s. I don't know why, but I didn't. But then when I did, I didn't want anything to do with Facebook because I'm visual. I'd rather sit there and look at gorgeous pictures than waste my time listening to two old ladies arguing about something in some conversation, which is what Facebook was to me at that point. Anyway, that's another story for another day.
So we're heading towards a younger generation. So if your product is more for 18 to 45-year-olds, probably.
I don't even think it's 18 though. I still think it's your 25, but probably 25, 30 to 45, 50, 60. I still think it fits in that zone. I think there'll be people in the upper range that maybe are on both or one or the other.
Okay.
But I think the younger generation, you know, go into the 40s, they're not on Facebook or very rarely. And a lot of us may look like we're on all of them because we cross post.
Yeah.
I post to Instagram, it posts to Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I'm posting on Facebook, even though I'm hardly ever even looking, right? So it looks like I'm active on Facebook. And a lot of us do that. We use software that lets us post into multiple platforms. And now I have one that I'm now the center of my focus. My marketing social media focus is LinkedIn. So I start there and it goes out to the other platforms.
Interesting.
So even though I'm not necessarily dancing in that world, I'm still interacting in that world but I'm starting in one home place. So that's why some of those demographics can be off because just because I'm posting in it doesn't mean I'm active in it.
Yeah. No, it's more about who your audience is rather than who's posting.
The younger generations, especially if you get into the 18-year-olds, they're in Snapchat, they're in TikTok, they're in YouTube, they might be on Instagram, but Instagram's a little too boring for them. So they generally go and hang in some of the younger people. They haven't quite found their way in the world yet. So that's where they are. And that's why a lot of people are going to TikTok with their stuff. And again, you go to TikTok and it will kick it out to the other platforms too. So it might be that they're posting in multiple places and it's going to the other feeds.
Yeah.
It's just good to know because then you're not wasting you focus on one that's going to kick it out to multiple, and that's less work for you as a business owner.
Tis less work. I agree with you. And something that I use as well, that I'll do the same thing on all of them. But actually, I think that's possibly a mistake. And it's something that I've started to move away from doing because I think that the tone that you use on each one of them and
it's slightly different.
You use should be slightly different. So my feeling on Instagram is that it tends to be more conversational and casual. It has a lot more kind of emoji type things that it's a bit more trendified and young.
Visual.
Visual, yeah. It tends to be faster paced. So there tends to be a lot more video. It tends to be more movement involved in it, more action. It's much more trend aware, I think, than Facebook is. It's much more with it. Kind of, I don't know, just tends to be a little bit in the moment rather than Facebook is just a little bit more fuddy-duddy, if you like. And it's culturally relevant, I think. And it's, I think, meant to be kind of more interactive and engaging. Now,
actually, it's not really designed to be a conversation place. That's actually not what it's designed for. It's not designed to create a community, which has been one of the things that people have been frustrated about it. Now, there are ways now you can create little communities, you can create groups, depending on what kind of a account you have, whether you're a business or digital creator, but you can invite people to a group. It's very similar, but they're more chat-based kind of things, kind of like Facebook Messenger type stuff. And then they have that new thing they just started, Threads, which I don't know anything about, haven't even bothered with it. I heard there were some major issues with information leakage on that one in the contract that you never read but say yes to. So I just decided to stay out of that world. But that's kind of like their version of Facebook Messenger. That's their version of
Is it not their version of Twitter stroke X?
It's Twitter / Messenger. It's their version of those two put together.
Okay.
As a separate product, right? Instead of being inside. They could have put that inside of Instagram, but they chose to make it an extra one. And again, Twitter's a whole nother beast.
Yeah, let's not even go there. Okay, so there are differences between them. I think that you need to be really careful about getting the tone wrong by doing cross-fertilization, because I think what you put on Instagram is not necessarily what you should be putting on LinkedIn. And if you put what you put on LinkedIn into Instagram, maybe I think the themes can be the same. I think you can come up with the same kind of, this is the message that I'm trying to get across. But I think that they should be done in a different way. Discuss.
And I agree with you. That is pretty much what I have heard. But I don't think there's anything wrong with, because this is the decision that I personally made. I made the decision that I have a clearer message and a clear voice, clearer than I've had in years. So I know what it is, and I don't need to adapt to social media. The message will either resonate or it won't, whether it's fitting the algorithm of Instagram or not. And I want to make my money count. I want to make my time count. So instead of putting my efforts into all of these platforms and trying to make all of them happy and trying to reach everyone through all these systems, because I don't have that $150,000 budget to do all the advertising that they recommend on social media, I have to be creative and I have to use my time wisely. So this is just a shift. I did this last year, but I decided that LinkedIn was going to be my home for the next year, because it is a little more like Instagram used to be. It is a little more like a Facebook and an Instagram. It is more about community and building relationships, but business ones. It's specific to businesses. I'm a B2B business to business. So my clients are businesses.
So we're going to talk about LinkedIn next week.
Yes, we are. But that's been my choice.
I think, and that's a choice you've actively and decisively made, and that's great and valid for you. I think there just needs to be, people need to make that decision as to whether it's works for them. And I really like the fact that you've said LinkedIn is going to be my home for the next year. And I think that's really important as well, because just flitting from one to the other isn't going to work either. What you need to do is make a decision, right? I'm going to focus on, and build your content for it, even if it pushes out to other people. Focus on that specifically and do it for a reasonable amount of time. Don't just do it for a week and go, that didn't work. Or,
oh no, this is months of nurturing. It really is.
And that's really important. That's a really good tactic to have, I think. So great. Just talk to me about hashtags, because hashtags are something that I had no idea what hashtags were until a few months ago. I'd shove a couple on there just because I thought it looked trendy, but actually they do play an important, I know, just don't laugh at me, but that's the case. They do have an important, for anyone that can't see Ariel right now, she has collapsed off her chair laughing at me. Because
I'm laughing with you, not at you.
Fair enough. Okay. So, but each of the different platforms, they have different policies and they have different ways of hashtags. Some like 10, some like 3, some like 20, some won't allow you to put more than a certain number on there. So just tell me first of all, because it was you that I think explained it to me originally. What is a hashtag and how do they work? You're muted. That doesn't work on a podcast.
I think I was laughing too hard.
It's just thanks.
Sorry. Hashtags are a way to, I don't think they're as used as much. There's definitely a slowdown in all platforms of how many to put in. It's better to use 3 to 5 good ones than a whole bunch of useless ones. And hashtags are just a way to reach a greater audience. And you do that through, say, I use the hashtag photography as an example. That is an overused hashtag. There are so many different people who have used that hashtag. It's probably in millions by now. So if I click on that, you're lost in a world of craziness. But say there's a lens called Lens Baby, which is a specific type of creative lens. Say I shoot with that lens and I want to see other people whose work with that lens. I can type in the hashtag Lens Baby and then maybe even the name of the lens that I want to learn about. And I will get a lot of photographs that were taken with that lens. So it's an actual search engine tool. Things like women empowerment. You can find out, there's different sites that let you see like how many times has this been used. I think even sometimes in Instagram, it might even tell you, but
Yes, yeah.
and you want to stay away from anything that's been used millions of times. You think, oh, I'm going to get on the train. No, the train already went. It left the building. You have to get on the train in the early part. So in the less than 10,000, 7,000, 5,000, those are what you're looking for. Same with trending audio. It's very similar. A trending audio shows you, because you use that audio, I click on that audio, I will now connect to everybody who used that audio. So it's just a way of getting to other people's information. It's just kind of like a search tool.
So if I wanted to, life coach is also one that's quite heavily used. So if someone was searching for life coach as a hashtag, they would get everybody that had used that hashtag life coach.
Yes.
But if I could find a way of making it more relevant, more unique to me, when they put that hashtag in, only I come up, or just a very few people come up. So in order to be able to be seen by people, you need to come up with hashtags that people are going to use, or search terms that people are going to use, because there's no point in putting the alphabet in there because no one's going to search on that. But if you can find a term that people are going to, a trending term, but nobody else has yet used it as a hashtag, or very few people have used it as a hashtag, you'll come up. So, okay.
Like getting unstuck might be a good one. So if you're talking about the problem and somebody might see it in a post, and then if they click on that hashtag in the post, it will take them to all the other places that hashtag is in. So if you click on the hashtags, they're clickable. They're like, they link you to everywhere else that hashtag was used. Of course, you don't see them because there's thousands, but it will show you the most seen first. You can change how you look at that. You can do the latest, and I forget, they keep changing it, but they used to be able to see better, but now, they're always fixing things and breaking them at the same time.
Okay. That's really
as well as they did even 5 years ago, and that's why only using a few is key.
Yeah. So according to my research, Instagram uses more than most.
You could use 30.
Yeah, 20 to 30, they say. And some people say actually mixing in your one post, mixing ones that are have a huge number of posts connected to them, as well as the ones that are small in one post, is really good. Okay. So hashtags are good.
I know in Instagram you can use up to 30. Sometimes people, if you ever see this, you'll understand it. Sometimes people in the post itself, you'll see only a few, maybe, 8 or something, right? And then in the comment, you'll see a comment that's literally just hashtags.
Yeah.
That's what that is. That's adding those extra hashtags, but in a comment rather than the actual post. That's the strategy that some people use.
So is it a good thing? So I sometimes use on mine, I often use life coach because that's what I am. But I also do things like overwhelm to opportunity, because that's what I'm talking about. And so if I'm doing a post, or if I'm doing lots of different posts, but I use the same hashtag, when people tick on them, they'll see me lots of times. Am I right?
Well, possibly, depending on how many times the hashtag is used. But one of the things that will happen if you use the same hashtags every time, you got to change up your hashtags.
Okay, that's what I was going at. Do I need to use the same ones all the time, or do I change?
You want them to change because Instagram sees the same ones. Any kind of a pattern that's repetitious, they will see as a potential scammer. They think, oh, it's an ad. Oh, it's somebody trying to spam. It's, so anything that's repeated over and over and over again, whether it's you use the same post every week, not a good idea. If you change it up, so like in some of the planning apps, you can collect hashtags. So I have like all these little groups of 5 or 10 in my collection of hashtags, and I'll grab different ones at different points depending on what I'm putting in. So it's not like I don't have to think about it because I've collected hashtags.
Okay.
Right. And then some become obsolete after a while. So you kind of go, every once in a while, you got to kind of look and go, that's irrelevant. I'm just going to delete that set. But there are a lot, especially when you're dealing with women in business is one, business women, blank. You can pick the industry, so there's lots of different ways of reaching a lot of different people through hashtags.
Interesting. Okay. All right, good. So is there anything else that you think our audience might like to know about or need to know about Instagram that we haven't covered already?
Again, I think very important to just figure out which home you want to live in terms of your marketing, because if you're trying to dance in all of them, you'll be exhausted and you'll just be frustrated by the whole thing. So we want to avoid that. So we have to see which one we think has got our clients in it. Like this is a little younger than Facebook, but it's a little bit harder to get reach without putting money into ads. So if you have the budget to put money into ads, then you might want to look into that. But learn how to do it well so you're not wasting your money.
We did that you've done that calculation though, haven't you, Ariel?
Yes.
So if you do the optimum or the advised,
recommended,
it is the word I'm trying to find. So the recommended budget for advertising in Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, how much would I be spending a year?
$16,500 a year in marketing.
Is that the minimum amount, or that's the minimum?
That's the minimum optimal, the minimum recommended amount.
Wow, 16,500 on the minimum recommended amount.
Plus all the time it takes you to do the content creation, the engagement, because if you don't engage on these posts, if you don't go to other people's posts and talk and respond to them, if you're not spending those hours engaging in other people's content, or you're not hiring somebody to help you do that, you're going to be at the bottom of that. Even your ads are going to be at the bottom of the recycling pile, so to speak. So your reach will get very, very small if you're not doing all that other engagement on that. Because it's not just about what you post. It's also about how much you engage with others on their posts.
We'll talk about that on LinkedIn, because it's most important on LinkedIn, I think, on the way that you interact with LinkedIn. It's the same on Facebook and Instagram, that you need to be interacting with other people and liking and following and those kind of things. But LinkedIn is really key. But and we'll talk about that next week. But that's $16,500 annually, and you need to be on each advert that you're placing, hitting your target market really quickly on your advertising in order to be able to pay back $16,500 a year on the minimum recommended. Well, if you've got a product that's selling, high volume, even if it's low value, but high volume, you may well be able to do it. Maybe if you've got a very high value, low volume, you might be able to do it. But if you're like the normal people out there who that's
multi-level marketing, all that stuff, how many of those do they have to sell before they even make 1,000?
Yeah. That's a tough lesson to learn, isn't it? So we go back to, and this is something we've talked about in previous podcasts, do the math.
It helps you make wise decisions, whether you like it or not. And what was the number we found out that was unbelievable? Where was that one? I didn't write it down.
There was something.
I know it was for Google. That was the mind blower. So Google recommended for a small or local business. So this is not talking corporate. This is talking small or local, which is where we talk to mostly people who are in that world. The minimum you should spend, according to Google, of course, they want you to spend all of it. The minimum a year is $18,000 just for Google ads. The recommended was $96,000 a year to reach and get your return on investment. Now, if you got a return on investment, cool. But if I only made $96,000 after that $96,000, I wouldn't be happy. That'd be breaking even.
Yeah.
I would be you'd be had a little bit. I can't talk because like my brain don't think that high. You'd have to be in the 6 digits substantially before you're kicking that kind of a budget out.
Yeah.
And those ads you keep seeing over and over again, that's what they're paying.
Yeah.
Just to tell yourself that number, remember that. Go for those guys on the 3rd or 4th page.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. Well, those are some lessons that we've learned today. So thank you, Ariel. I appreciate that. So next week, we're going to be talking about LinkedIn.
Yes.
So today was Instagram. Next week is LinkedIn. All exciting stuff. Don't forget to bring your notepad.
Okay. Thank you very much.
See you next episode. After all, it is your brand, your story, and your success. Because Ariel and I know you matter in your business.
Thank you for listening to the You Matter in Business podcast. Please follow, share, like, and comment. We would love to hear from you. This podcast is sponsored by Ariel Faith Photography and Enrich Life Coaching. The show notes provide more information on how to contact Ariel and Miriam and any guest speakers who share in our journey together.